I ran out of the apartment and rushed down the stairs with my suitcase. The short dress was about to pull up, and the high heels could make me break my legs. But the cops were already in the doorway. I ran into them on the stairs. I prayed they wouldn't find me out. One of them stopped and told me that such a cute girl has to get out of here as quickly as possible, and ran after the others to catch a dangerous criminal. That is actually me. Gone. They didn't recognize me. I've been a guy named Joe for 20 years, but now I'm red-haired beauty Maria. And no, I didn't change my gender. In fact, my associates turned me into the cops, so I had to disguise myself. I jumped in the first cab to the station. An hour later, the train was taking me to a small town where I planned to abscond with a suitcase full of money. I was sitting in the car and was already falling asleep when suddenly the controller appeared in the aisle. He stared at my fake passport for so long that the other passengers also started staring at me. I was sweating from the strain in that tight dress, but I tried to smile sweetly. Finally, the controller exclaimed that I looked like an actress. Even the mole on my cheek is the same. Of course I did. I copied her image. In the evening, I arrived in a backwoods town. As soon as I got off the train, a lanky man rushed to take my suitcase. I was ready to punch him, but then I realized that he was just trying to help a pretty lady. I just gave him the suitcase, and he immediately ran away. By the time I took my shoes off, the scumbag was gone already. It's all gone. All I had left was my makeup bag and a couple of dollars. For the first time in my life, I wanted to go to the police, but it was a bad idea. I had to spend the night at the train station. I was used to sleeping in different conditions, but now it was terribly uncomfortable. The wig kept slipping off, and some homeless people were pestering me half the night. In the morning, I immediately started looking for a job. I needed to get by while I was wanted. I went around all the auto repair shops, but looking at me, the owner said that such a beauty should go to the TV and not fix cars. By lunchtime, I gave up and went to an eatery to have a snack. I complained about my problems to the owner, and she advised me to go to work at the school. It was a mile away from town with accommodation. Like, there, a teacher was needed. Should I take up teaching lessons or sleep at a train station for another night? The choice was obvious. I hugged the woman goodbye and surreptitiously took the silver brooch from her as a souvenir. I couldn't resist, but it was all to disguise myself into a teacher. They always wear trinkets like that. An hour later, I was standing in front of the school gates. I was immediately confused by the barbed wire over the fence. The sign said it was a military school for boys. Well, at least it wasn't a prison. I passed the interview without straining. A couple of winking was enough to get the deal in the bag. But when the principal asked me about my education, I had to use my imagination. I told him that I had just finished my studies abroad and that my diploma had not yet been sent. And this fool believed it. I was put on probation. So from that moment, I got a job in a nice small room. I'm going to stay here for a couple months until the investigation subsides, and then I'm off. The principal also promised to give me a new class. And why is he trying so hard? Did the old man decide to hit on me? God forbid. I'll have to hide from him as well. Like cops aren't enough for me. I terribly worried before the first class. What if they realize that I don't know anything about literature? I only read comics. But what a relief it was when none of the students came. I was about to watch a movie when I heard the principal's voice. I had to find these fools, still having my high heels on. It turned out that they were assembling an assault rifle outside. I snatched the weapon from them and quickly assembled it, telling a wild story about soldier spirit that settled in the rifle. Meanwhile, a guy in a sports suit came up to us. He turned out to be the local PE teacher, Tom. He looked at me with such a nasty smile that I wanted to hit him. Gosh, why is everyone at this school so interested in seeing me? I'm hiding from the cops, by the way. I don't want to go to jail. The next day, the same macho guy came to my class, and in front of all the students, he said that I was the most beautiful teacher in the world, and he was asking me out. And he did it so cockily, as if he expected me to fall at his feet of joy. No way, I said I didn't date men. His eyes widened. What the heck did I say? The kids just burst out laughing. Well, it was embarrassing, but my classes were just awesome. Once I remade Romeo and Juliet and told them that it was a real story, and it happened in a distant province with my aunt. That's where I learned how to assemble assault rifles when all the swords were taken away. The boys were delighted. They learned poems by heart. I think I was starting to enjoy working as a teacher. But Tom couldn't calm me down. In the dining room, he got me a heart-shaped cake in front of other teachers. This was so frustrating. I dropped it on the floor and blurted out to Tom that I wasn't some woman to give me darn cakes. Tom turned red and stormed out of the dining room, shouting that I would regret it. I was about to conduct the first test. I had already photoshopped my diploma and started reading a lot of books. As a result, I managed to somehow concoct the test using the internet. The day before, I was so worried that I couldn't sleep. I had to sleep in a woman's nightgown for secrecy. And this isn't very convenient, actually. And then I heard a knock on the door. I jumped right up, put on a wig and a dress. I opened the door and saw my student. In tears, he told me that Tom, the PE teacher, was trying to persuade him to send me up during the test. The kid was supposed to give me the money, and the other guy was supposed to take a picture of it. Tom was going to send these photos to his parents and to the newspaper. I was furious. No one can accuse me of something I didn't do. I burst into PE class this morning. Tom was so happy to see me until I twisted him with my signature move. Learn, kids. I only let go when I felt my fake breast slide down to my navel. Man, I hope it didn't notice. I had to get out of there before the guy came to. But from the moment on, I was on tenterhooks. What if he figured it out and was going to turn me in? How terrified I was when a cop showed up at school the next day. They gathered all the teachers and gave them flyers with a photo of me still being Joe. Tom looked at the flyer for a very long time, and then he glanced at me. Goodbye, kids. I have to get out of here. I had just made that decision when the principal caught me in the hall and asked for an urgent conversation. In the office, the old man began to talk nonsense that he had applied for a competition on my behalf in order to receive a grant in the future. So that's why he was so nice to me. He wanted to embezzle money with my help. No way. I didn't participate in this anymore. I don't want to spend my life wearing women's clothes and hiding from the cops. I gently gave the principal the heave-ho and left. I wouldn't work at that school anymore anyway. Bloody Tom is going to turn me in for sure. I had to run away as soon as possible. An unpleasant surprise was waiting for me in the room. Big Tom was standing there holding my passport. Things were scattered around. Heck, I tried to say something, but Tom pulled off my wig and handed me the flyer with my face on it. There was no point in denying it. But I begged him not to turn me in because I really loved his job and I wanted to start my life with a clean slate. But Tom just stared at me. In his eyes, I was a pathetic criminal. He threw my wig and left. The cop showed up at school again that night. I thought they came for me, but they walked past me into the principal's office. He was detained for financial fraud. What a relief. So I had time to convince Tom not to turn me in. Just when that thought appeared in my head, Tom came up to me. It turned out that he was delighted with the way I knocked him out. You bet. This is a secret trick of the Italian mafia. He promised he wouldn't turn me in if I told him the technique. Well, you can do anything for peace of mind, right? I was sick and tired of trembling at every step. I wanted to be a teacher, not a runaway criminal, but it didn't work. I was turned in by the cafe's owner for a goddamn brooch, a darn heirloom. I wish 100 times that I hadn't wanted this trinket. The police came to the school again. They came in the classroom and tied me up right in front of the kids. At that last second, I pulled off my wig and told the students the truth. I couldn't let the cops do it for me. And here I am, with my 3rd month in prison. I haven't changed my mind about becoming a teacher, and when I'm out, I will definitely find a job at the school. My former students have not forgotten me. They visit me and even bring parcels. I can't wait to get out of here. And then I promise to quit with the crimes. And women's dresses.
I was in a hurry to go on a date with my new boyfriend. Even though he was married, it didn't stop us from dating. But when I came to the cafe, he was almost kissing a blonde. Great. I ran over to them and threw the pregnancy test on the table. Not only do we have a date at this diner, but you're cheating on me. Give me the money quickly before your wife finds out about your affairs. He turned pale with fear, laid out a few $100 and ran away. And the blonde and I exchanged glances and went to the exit. We got in the car and Blonde immediately took off her wig. Actually, this was my brother Billy. I gave him half the money. Thank you, brother. Yes, we earned money by cheating romantic married men out of their money. I went on dates with them first, and then Billy came into play in my entrance with a pregnancy test. These males were ready to give everything. If only their wives did not find out about their cheating. But even with this income, our family barely had enough to eat. Our dad left us at a very young age. Our mom worked hard, but she could not survive the betrayal of our dad. She began to secretly drink, and once, mom saw dad with another young girl and got very drunk, after which she was fired. I can still remember her words that day. Say thank you to your daddy. You can't earn much in a normal job. And then it dawned on me. I could become the young mistress that men like my dad spent money on. So I would take revenge on all such men for my mom. And at the same time, I would earn money. But I realized that I couldn't do it alone. I needed help. I didn't have many friends. And who would agree to such a thing? And then I thought of Billy. My brother had very fine features, and yet he was an actor, so it was easy to get used to the role. At first, Billy was against seducing man, but the final argument was his study in a prestigious theater school. He was unlikely to enter on a budgetary basis, and we did not have money to pay for his studies. To study at the theater and become a world star was the dream of his whole life. The hope that had almost been extinguished was rekindled in him. That's how we started our scams. The perfect sugar daddies usually drank alone in bars. I sat down with them, word for word, and I was already treated to drinks. And after a couple of days of romance, my brother would kick into action. I'd set up another date for my victims, but I'd accidentally be late. Instead of me, Billy would sit down with them and quickly seduce them. And as soon as it came to a kiss, I would appear in the cafe and make a scene. Waving a fake pregnancy test. We played this performance one by one. And everything was great. The vibrating phone brought me back from my memories to reality. Billy just got a call from the acting school. The entrance exam was postponed. It would be in a week. And then we would have to pay for the studies right away. Billy dropped his head. Where can we find so much money in a week? He asked. Well, I had one contingency plan. We could choose a victim of some serious rich man. There was scums among them, just like our dad. And they had a lot of money. That evening, Billy and I rented some fancy clothes. We needed to look expensive. And then I went to the best restaurant in our city. I walked proudly past the tables. I couldn't believe I was here again. All evening, I threw passionate glances at the man, but no one approached me. I was about to go home. We only wasted the money for renting outfits. But suddenly a gallant man in his 40s came up to me and introduced himself as Glam. He was wearing a suit, a gold watch, and a wedding ring. Well, I invited him to sit at the table. The game began. Glam ordered us some lobsters and we started talking. I tried to get information from him about his money and his family, but Glam kept changing the subject. And he was always joking, but I didn't want any jokes from him. I tried to touch his hand gently, but he immediately pulled it away. Then he politely invited me to his friend's yacht party tonight. Of course, I agree. As we rode in the taxi, I was sure Glam liked me. Why else would he call me on the yacht? That's where I would seduce him. On the yacht, I offered Glam to go to a cabin, but he looked away from me. Hey, what does that mean? And then Glam suggested watching the sunset. It was better than sitting in a cabin with a small window. Glam and I spent the rest of the evening discussing each other's hobbies and interests. I didn't even notice how time flew by. But I still didn't know how to seduce him. Talking to him? The party ended and Glam drove me home. I wanted to at least kiss him goodbye. But at the last second, Glam pretended that someone had called him and turned away. He was a strange man. I got out of the car and slammed the door, and as soon as I went in, my brother Billy was waiting for me, eager to find out how it had gone. But I said it was more complicated than usual. This rich Glam didn't buy into my pickup attempts. Billy got mad and accused me of being too slow. He had an exam and admission the other day. The money was needed now, and then he abruptly and coldly declared that we had to act more decisively. Billy, how stubborn you are. Don't worry. I'll handle it. It was strange. I used to get men in a few hours. What happened to me? The next night, I went on a date with Glam again. He was already waiting for me at the cafe. And as soon as I sat down at the table, Glam said that he wanted to tell me something. But then my phone rang. It was Billy. What a bad time. I apologized to Glam and walked away to answer. And then I heard the bell on the front door. I looked around and saw Billy standing in the doorway, dressed as a blonde. He still didn't listen to me. He was striding toward our table. Billy, wait. You're going to ruin this. Stubborn, selfish boy. I quickly ran to Billy and dragged him around the corner. What the hell? My brother snapped that he had no more time to wait. He needed money to pay for the admission. Or had I forgotten about his dream and become obsessed with this Glam? I promised that tomorrow we would carry out our plan and somehow pushed Billy out of the restaurant. I caught the first taxi. We're going home. On the way, I wrote to Glam and apologized for my sudden disappearance. and had to lie that my cat was sick and I urgently needed to see the vet. I asked him to reschedule the date for tomorrow. I was afraid that Glam would get angry, but he suddenly invited me to his house. Wow. I was beaming with happiness, so I still had a chance. But Billy couldn't get over it, and he kept saying we still didn't have a penny. I felt like I was being pricked. I hated to admit it, but Billy seemed to be right. No matter how cute Glam was, I had to try and get the money. After all, my brother and mom needed help. It's decided. The next morning, I put on a low-cut dress and high heels. No man could resist. After that, I took a taxi to Glam's house. I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing. Glam wasn't a bad person at all. But I quickly pushed those thoughts away. That's what we thought about our dad too. And he turned out to be a traitor. The car was already pulling up, and I saw Glam's swanky mansion. Everything was like in the movies. A swimming pool, golden statues, a fountain. Such luxury. Glam met me at the gate and invited me into the house. He was visibly nervous. Maybe something had happened. I took his hand. Is that what you wanted to say yesterday? Glam sighed and said he couldn't make me happy. What was he talking about? He had a palace here. And then Glam said that he was once rich. But a couple of years ago, his daughter got sick. His wife left them. And he spent almost everything on medical treatment. Even had to mortgage this house. What? Then Glam said that even if I didn't want to see him again, he would like me to meet his daughter Lilo. Then he timidly opened the door of one of the rooms. A pale girl of about 6 lay on the bed. Under the ivies, I felt uneasy at the thought that I was going to steal the last of Glam's money. He spent everything on his daughter's treatment. At that moment, Glam's phone rang and he was called to work. It was urgent. Glam excitedly asked if I could sit with Lilo. I was confused, but I couldn't leave her alone. Glam left, and I sat by Lilo's bed. It was hard for me to look at the poor girl. I turned my eyes to the window, and then I saw a dark figure climbing over the fence. My heart sank. Someone had broken into the Glam land. There was no time to think. Then my eyes fell on the poker by the fireplace. I picked it up and walked slowly to the back entrance. The door handle turned, and I screamed at the thief. But when I saw him, I was taken aback. It was Billy. He viciously praised me for leading him to a rich man's house. I couldn't let him steal from Glam. You wouldn't dare, Billy. But then I heard the police sirens. Damn it, Billy. We're going to jail now. Half an hour later, Billy and I were in the precinct. I was desperate, but suddenly Glam came into the cell with a policeman. The cop barked that we were free, and Glam sternly told us to follow him. He took us to a nearby cafe, and Billy and I sat down carefully across him. I felt like a little girl who had done something wrong, but Glam suddenly sighed and said, "I am your father." What? Billy and I looked at each other in dismay. He asked us to finish listening to him. Dad was forbidden to communicate with us since Mom had achieved full custody, and he wanted it so badly. My fist clenched in anger. If you wanted to hang out with us, you wouldn't have a mistress. But Dad was confused and said that he was young and stupid. He thought that he would find true love. But in time, he realized that he had lost it. Glam continued. He really wanted to meet Billy and me, but he couldn't figure out where to take us. So Glam decided to follow us and find out what kind of cafes Billy and I liked. However, he soon found out that we cheated men out of their money. He was terribly worried and decided to stop us. As proof that Glam was indeed our dad, he pulled out a crumpled photo of Glam holding Billy and me in his arms. A lump rose in my throat. Yes, everyone makes mistakes, and Billy and I are no exception. And after that, we apologized to Glam. I mean Dad. And I think he forgave us after all. After that, I arranged a meeting between Dad and Mom. He finally asked her to forgive him for the pain he had caused. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I think she found the strength to forgive him. Soon, she gave up drinking and got a new job. And finally, I was happy to spend time at home with my family. And Billy got into acting school on a budgetary basis. All he had to do was come to admission examinations in the image of a charming beauty. The commission was shocked that there was a guy standing in front of them. My brother and I stopped cheating on men, and I spent most of my time with Lilo. I think I finally realized that there is nothing more precious than family. And if you want to keep it, then only by good deeds. Did you like the video? Subscribe and like it. Support the channel. Thank you.